This was like a mantra going through my head. The pain is good. The pain means your son is coming. The pain means that you're going to be able to meet this little guy that you've been, wanting to meet for 9 months. Hello and welcome back to our channel. My name is Bree, and I'm here with my son Elliot and my daughter Autumn, who is off camera playing in the grass. But I'm here today with a different type of video. I want to share my birthing experience with my son Elliot. So first, a little backstory. My son Elliot was due on the 17th of December 2022, but he was actually late. And I ended up inducing my own labor naturally. For both of my kids, I actually induced labor naturally with a homeopathic method that I just found online. It's called a midwife's brew, and the main ingredient in it is actually castor oil. So it's castor oil, some almond butter, some lemon verbena tea, and some apricot juice. And you basically blend that all together into a little concoction and drink it, and it's supposed to help induce labor. So when I was pregnant with my daughter Autumn, I took that drink, and a couple hours later, I actually started to have contractions. With Elliot, so I made the brew a couple of times with him. Once on the 17th on his actual due date. I actually talked to my OBGYN, and she said that, if it worked the first time, go ahead and try it out again. So I tried it, and I had minor contractions, but they didn't go anywhere. So then I ended up taking the brew again on the 21st, like in the morning. And his labor was so much slower than Autumn's, but it was actually a good thing because it gave me a lot of time to kind of breathe through my contractions and to kind of slowly build to that level where they really are painful. So like I said, I took the drink early in the morning, and then all through the day I was having little contractions, and I found myself having to nurse each contraction as it came, as opposed to my daughter, where they started off kind of slow, and then they were like boom, 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 really consistent, really fast. But with his, I found myself, I had to sit on a yoga ball and bounce and really kind of work my hips and rotate my hips to kind of facilitate the opening of, your cervix. So it was basically an all-day thing with Elliot. A lot of nursing the contractions, a lot of sitting in a squatting position, bouncing on a yoga ball. I was doing everything I could basically to keep the contractions coming, because like I said, by this point he was already 3-4 days late. So I'm ready for him to be out. And one big thing that really helped getting through the contractions was, obviously, everybody knows this, you have to practice your breathing. Deep breaths in the nose, letting it out slowly through the mouth. And this was an all-day process. And then by that evening, they were finally starting to get somewhat consistent. I remember telling my husband, I'm not sure if he's going to be coming tonight or tomorrow or what, but I'm feeling the contractions. They're here. I'm doing all that I can to keep myself open and calm and really relaxing that area of my body to facilitate, like I said, the opening of my cervix.
I'm back.
You're back. Hello, Autumn. You have a good run?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. And so basically at that point, it was maybe about 9 o'clock at night, the contractions finally started to get to the point where they were uncomfortable. Right? So I was finally starting to feel okay, I think this is happening, because the first a couple of days earlier I had these consistent, very light contractions, and I got my family all worked up and riled up there. Oh my God, the baby's coming! Blah blah blah. Everybody run into position, but nothing ended up happening. So I was very sure to wait until I was definitely sure that he was coming, and that night he was. So I'm getting the contractions. My husband's in bed, he's sleeping. My daughter's asleep. It's maybe 9-10 o'clock at night, and I'm okay, I'm I'm sure he's coming. I can tell, right? We're to that point where the contractions are painful. They're consistent. All right, it's go time. I tell my husband, wake up. I'm sure he's coming tonight. I think I need to go to the hospital. It's like, okay. We get everything packed up and ready to go. So the original plan was, when I felt like Elliot was coming, I was going to call my mom, and she was going to come down to San Antonio. She lives in Austin. Pick up Autumn and take her back to her house. And it's about an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back. But since I went to labor at night, my mom actually was not able to come down and get my daughter because she has poor vision. Night driving is pretty much impossible for her. So we were kind of running into this conundrum of like, what are we going to do with Autumn while I'm going into labor? I don't really have any like close friends out here in San Antonio. And so we were kind of running into this issue, like, what do we do with her? Because we can't take her into the laboring room with us. And me and Cody are going back and forth, kind of talking about, what do we do? And I'm finally like, you're going to have to just leave me here. Alrighty, Bubba. Love me some here. Alright, so we finally came to the conclusion that he was going to have to leave me there and take Autumn up to Austin himself. Like I said, it's about a 3-hour drive there and back. So I'm now in the hospital in not the actual birthing room, but before that where they have you lay with all the other moms before you get to a certain dilation and you can go to your own private room. I'm in there by myself, and like, when I tell you, like, this was my worst fear of like having to labor and go through the situation alone. And most of that fear was derived from my first pregnancy with Autumn, and it kind of was cut close. It was very close because with her I had high blood pressure. My first labor was very, very, very tough. The epidural did not work. I had very high blood pressure. I was almost like hyperventilating because I was not breathing, or I was holding my breath during every contraction. It was very rough, and I had my mom there who was grounding me, and then like the big help was my husband, he was there reminding me how to breathe, holding my hand, helping me push, like all of this. He was like my rock, and he was really like grounding and centering for me during my first, during giving birth to Autumn. And like, to think that I was going to be there, possibly doing that with nobody, that was so harrowing. It's so scary. So it was such a crazy moment, because I'm sitting there in the little birthing center with all the other laboring moms, here listening to people moaning and groaning and all this other stuff, and they're poking and prodding you, trying to feel your cervix, and you're just like, I was like, oh my God, I want to be by myself. And initially, like, there was this moment of like fear, but then like something kind of just clicked in my head, like something like just, and I don't want to like, I had this moment where I was like, Bree, you've got to do this. You got to be strong, and you got to stay calm. That was like the biggest thing. It's like, do not panic. Do not panic. Do not panic. Because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to panic and be like, oh my God, nobody's going to be here. What if something goes wrong? Who's going to help, like, be my voice to, like, speak for me if there's, like, some sort of, like, bad situation that happens? You know what I'm saying? But there was something that clicked in my head, and I was like, nope, that's not going to happen. You're going to get this baby out, and you're going to be fine. Do everything. You've been preparing for this for months. And prior, every night I would meditate. Before, like, maybe like a month or two before he was here, I was meditating almost every night. And I was practicing the breathing exercises that you're supposed to do while in labor. So I was, during my meditation, and during my meditations, I was almost envisioning like giving birth and envisioning everything going great, everything going smoothly, envisioning like my cervix opening and him coming out and it being perfect and it being good. And I was like, go back to that place, get in the right mindset, be calm. Like, it was like, I don't even know where this came from, but it was like I felt almost empowered. Like, I was like, okay, we got this. We got this. So I'm in this birthing chamber and I'm like hardly talking to anyone. Like, I'm so focused on my body and how I'm feeling. I'm making sure that if my heart rate's going up, I'm taking deep breaths. I'm making sure that every time I have a contraction, I'm doing my breathing exercises. The majority of the time, I have my eyes closed. I'm trying to center myself and I'm trying to commune with like my womb, with my baby. And I'm like, this is going to be easeful. This is going to happen naturally. This is going to work. And one big difference that I found with giving birth to Elliot than with giving birth to Autumn was I didn't fight my contractions. With Autumn, because it's such a new feeling, at first it almost feels like period cramps, and you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. But once it reaches that threshold where you're like 5 centimeters dilated, 6, 7, it's like game time. It's go time. It's a pain like you've never really felt. And with Autumn, I found myself clenching a lot, clenching, holding my breath, almost like not wanting the pain to happen, fighting it, trying to turn away from it, get away from it. And with Elliot, I had this thought going through my head of, I'm welcoming this pain. I'm not going to try to stop this pain because this pain means my baby's coming. I'm not going to clench in my stomach, in my uterus, in my, in that area. I'm not going to clench. Every time I feel a contraction and it hurts and it's painful, I'm going to relax my lower half. I'm going to release tension. I'm going to breathe through it. I'm going to welcome the pain. The pain is good. This was like a mantra going through my head. The pain is good. The pain means your son is coming. The pain means that you're going to be able to meet this little guy that you've been, wanting to meet for 9 months. And that thought, like, that's what really just that's what helped me get through it. So I'm in the birthing chamber with the other women. I get to, I forget whatever the centimeters dilated that you need to be before they give you your private room, but I get there, and they ushered me to the private, birthing room, and I'm in there by myself, and the nurse comes in, and she was such a sweet lady. She was, oh my, the nurse that I had, I wish I could remember her name because she was such a sweet lady. She knew that, she could see that I was by myself. And she was like, is anybody coming for you? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, my husband, he's dropping off our kids, but he's going to be here, hopefully. And she was like, all right. And she kind of just stood with me in the room, helped me work through the contractions. And she was just like a really nice, calm presence there, and made me feel like I wasn't alone. And I know she had other women that she was looking after, but I could tell that she was sticking with me as much as possible so that I wouldn't be by myself. And I really appreciate her for that. But yeah, so the next conundrum. So I'm wanting to get the epi, right? Obviously, well, not obviously, some people do natural births, but that wasn't what I was wanting to do, especially by myself. So I want the epi. In order for me to get the epi, they tell me that they have to get some fluids in me because I'm dehydrated. I'm like, all right, bet. Stick a vein in me. Let's get this going. They can't find a vein. And more than that, moreover, thank you, honey. Moreover, the room is freezing. Like, I'm literally under maybe 2 to 3 of those little stupid thin blankets that they have at the hospital. And I'm literally shivering because it's so cold. And the doctors always, for whatever reason, have a hard time. Doctors, for whatever reason, typically have a difficult time with me finding a vein. That's a mosquito net. Doctors, for whatever reason, typically have a hard time with me finding my veins. And like, since it was cold, it was even more difficult. So now I'm at this point maybe 6 centimeters dilated. They can't find a vein. They're poking and prodding me on my hands. They got my wrists. They tried to get the inner elbow, and they just can't get a vein. I'm pressed and wrap my arm up. They get me more blankets to try to get me heated up. And finally they get a vein and they're able to get the fluids in me. So now I'm waiting on, getting my fluids. I'm still having my contractions, and they, at this point they're painful. They're like big painful, but I'm still like calm. I'm very centered, and it was almost like, I don't know, something was watching over me, because I was in the zone, and I got to 7 centimeters dilated. No epi, no help. Like, I did all that laboring naturally up until that point. But they finally get the fluids in me. They finally give me my fluids, the whole little IV pack. It's, they get to a point where it's halfway done, and they're like, okay, we can give you your epi. Let's hurry up and let's go ahead and get this done. They call the little specialist in, and I don't know why they have this. It's like the most uncomfortable position to be in while you're laboring. They have you like hunch over so that your spine's kind of close to your skin or whatever. And I go through a contraction while she's doing that, and it's like, that was probably the hardest contraction that I had to push through or get through, was the one while she was trying to stick the needle in my back. But once she got it in, it was like sweet relief. So I had one more contraction that was painful, and then the next one was less, and then the next one less, and then the next one, like, I didn't feel anything at all. I couldn't feel them anymore. They had me lie like flat on my back. They said that's the best way to lay in order to get the most benefits from the epidural. So I'm flat on my back now, and it's over with. It's not over with, but the pain and having to kind of labor it's calm, and it's the rest of the experience is so easeful. So at that point, I'm in maybe 10, 15 minutes on the epi, completely calm, chilled out, and that's when Cody finally gets there. It's like after all the hard part, right? So he finally gets there, and he's like, "Oh my God, what's going on? Is he here yet? Blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Nope," but he's almost here, and I'm in such a good state. Like, I'm actually able to take a nap while I'm able to take a quick, like, 20-30 minute nap, and then after I wake up from that, it's go time. I'm dilated enough for the baby to come, and again, like, I couldn't feel him coming out. That's how, like, strong the epi was, and it's such a contrasting experience to Autumn, because with Autumn, I don't know if it was the way that I was sitting, if the guy missed his mark when he put the epi in, but I felt everything. It was pretty much a natural birth with Autumn. With this guy, it was like I couldn't tell when my contractions were coming. They were having to tell me, okay, you're contracting now, try to push. And when you get the epi, obviously you can't feel your legs. You can't feel anything of your lower half, so they had me like grip the back of my knees, and in order to push, I would basically like lean forward as hard as I can and kind of just like push from the stomach almost. And I maybe pushed 5-6 times, and he was here. And he was here. And you have that moment when your baby first arrives where it's like, there's almost like it's like disbelief, but then it's also like this, it's like magic almost. It's like somebody waved a wand and like, boop, plunked you on the head and like everything's sparkly and beautiful and you see your baby for the first time. And I remember I remember that moment when he first came out and almost being in disbelief because like I couldn't feel him coming out. So it was like whoa, all of a sudden he's here. And they pick him up, I believe. Yeah, Cody, I think he cut the umbilical cord first. I can't remember if they gave him to me first or they cut the umbilical cord first, but but they pull him out and he's the most beautiful little baby you ever saw. And they're handing him to me, and guess what Elliot does? He poops all over my stomach. It's just like right off the bat, they're in the middle of handing him to me, and it's like everywhere. But it's like, at that point you don't even care. It's like some of the gross things that are kind of associated with having a baby. You kind of see, it doesn't even matter. It's like you're so happy and blissed out to meet your child that it's like, whatever, pee on me, poop on me, whatever. I'm just glad you're here safely, And then there's that first moment when you hold your child and they put me, we did skin to skin. I'm holding on to him on my chest, and it's just a great moment. It's just a great moment. Autumn, what are you doing? Can you hand me a diaper and some wipes? And yeah, that was basically my, I would say that was a very empowering birth. It was and I would say a very positive birthing experience. I think that with Autumn, I was almost like turned off by the idea of having more, not turned off, but like I was wary and kind of scared to have more kids because of how painful and kind of like I got really close to like passing out, and like I said, my blood pressure was through the roof. And it was kind of like a scary experience because like there's like little thought in your head like, whoa, what if I had died during that? And I had none of that with this birth, with Elliot's birth. It was a very easeful process, and I think it has a lot to do with also me being more spiritually grounded. Like I said, like regular meditation. I was also doing a lot of yoga to kind of help stretch and open my womb, and I really prepared better than I did with Autumn. But there's like a lot of different sets of circumstances with Autumn than there were with Elliot. Oh, I need to put that on my car. I keep forgetting about that. It's a car sticker.
Car sticker?
Yeah.
Let's open this.
We'll open it later so I can put it on my car. But yeah, that's my my second birthing experience, and like I said, I would think of, if I were to describe it in one word, I would say it was positive. I would say that it was an empowering experience. It was unexpected because, like I said, my worst fear was giving birth alone and not having anybody there with me, but that happened, and I was able to get through it, and it was actually like a very positive experience. And I don't know if it would have been the same or as easeful or whatever if somebody was there with me. I don't know. It was very it was interesting. So at this point, I feel like fully capable. Like if we do end up having another kid, I think I could do it naturally after my experience with Elliot. I definitely think so. Honey, comment, subscribe, and if you'd like to hear my birthing story with Autumn, go ahead and just drop a comment in the section saying like I'd like to hear that, because that was like if Elliot's experience was a yin, hers was a yang, like two completely different ballparks of you okay, Bubba? Two completely different experiences. So like, comment, share, subscribe. Peace.